life cycle completed, harvesting will be done, and again they are incorporated into soil and decomposition will be takes place. And after decomposition, again the nutrients which are in combined form, then again they are released into the simplest form, and these cycles will be goes on. Okay, so we have talked about that in the soil there are different type of materials there, different type of nutrients there, different forms are there. They may be organic or inorganic form. Some are stable, some are unstable form, some are usable form, some are non-usable form. Okay, so some system is exist into the soil to transform these various nutrients into appropriate life available form. Okay, so after when microbes colonize into the soil, living body, they are decomposed by the microbes and mineralized to the simpler form and usable form. So all elements of the microbial cells are cycled between organic or inorganic, water soluble or insoluble, gaseous, liquid, or solid forms in the ecosystem. And we have talked about the biogeocycle that I have told you that it is mainly a tool for evaluating and testing our understanding of nutrient movement and their distribution in the ecosystem. Mainly, these cycles are studied for evaluating our understanding about the ecosystem, different cycles, how these cycles perform, and what is the output of these cycles, whether there is a balancing or positive or negative interactions are there. Okay, we have talked about the carbon cycle also, simplest form of carbon cycle, in which the carbon is evolved, again they are fixed, and after decomposition again they are regenerated. Okay, so that is the carbon cycle, and in the center of this is the plant biomass, or plants are the center of this carbon cycle. Okay, so now we will discuss. So all these things are we have discussed. Once again, we will discuss in detail the carbon cycles. Okay. So if you see that I have told you that the carbon cycles in the center of the carbon cycle, that is plant biomass production. Our plants are mainly in the center of the carbon cycle. Okay. So about 7,500 kg of the biomass will be generated in a hectare. Okay, so if you see there may be some portion is seed, that is 2,500 kg of seeds may be there, and the biomass may be roots 2,500 kg and 2,500 kg the residue. This is for 1 hectare land. If in 1 hectare land, if you grow certain plants, 7,500 kg of the biomass will be developed. That may be divided into 3 parts. First part is seed, that is the economic portion, or most economic portion, that is 2,500 kg, residue 2,500 kg, and roots 2,500 kg, which remain inside the soil. Okay, now these seeds are used for the use of animals or use of human beings. Okay, so about 150 kg, that is biomass, will be developed in the animals, and then there will be residual effect also there comes, and CO2 evolution will be also takes place. Okay, so about 1,250 kg CO2 will be evolved after decompositions and other process, and these CO2 are used in the photosynthesis process. Okay, the manures which are received after the from the animals, that are 1,100 kg. Okay, that may be incorporated into the soil, or that may be there are during the decomposition, CO2 evolution also takes place. Okay, so in this way the manures after decomposition, CO2 evolved, that comes into the atmosphere, and that well decomposed manure, that is 275 kg, will be comes into the soil. Residue which incorporated into the soil, that is 375 kg, will be incorporated into and the roots biomass, that is 2,500 kg, when incorporated or decomposed into the soil, decomposition will takes place, humidification will takes place, and they will add organic matter into the soil. Okay. Uh, from these roots and residue decomposition, CO2 evolution also takes place, that is 2,125 kg. CO2 will be evolved, and then after decomposition, they evolve during the humidifications, they add certain materials to the soil, into the soil. Okay. So from the roots also, 1,675 kg CO2 evolved, and here the soil humus, that is 65,000 kg, will be there, and there may be active pools, slow pools, and passive pools will be there. Okay, so all these pools we have discussed into the soil organic matter into the first semester, although we will discuss all these in details in this semester also. So there are different pools of these organic matters are there, and all these are remaining into the equilibriums with the passive, slow, and active pools, and further to the they contribute to the cation exchange capacity into the soil. So the organic matter content of the soil, which are into the different phases, that is passive phase, slow active phase, they contribute. Their overall impact is reflected into the property as a cation exchange capacity. Okay, so all these during the process, they also evolve during the oxidation. They also evolve carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and about 1,625 kg carbon dioxide will be evolved. Okay, so there is also some carbonate and bicarbonate development will be take place, that will be precipitated as a calcium, mainly as a calcium carbonate and calcium bicarbonate into the through the leaching. They may be going into the groundwater, and they will contribute there. Okay, so through the leaching process that will be take place. Okay, they are also contributing to the different process also, and through this soil humus content, there will be net loss of soil carbon, that is about 330. Okay, so 330 kg loss of carbon will be there. So you may see the ultimate impact of the carbon cycle is now the negative, that is net loss is shown here. Okay, so from 1 hectare about 330 kg carbon is lost into the atmosphere. That's why there is a increase in the carbon dioxide content into the atmosphere, and there are also several factors like emissions and some automobile sectors. All these are increase the CO2 content, but through our process of cultivation process or agriculture practices, there is also net loss of carbon into the soil will be there. If you see the organic carbon content into the soil, the organic carbon content is decreasing. If you see 50 years back, in the Himalayan region, in the Pantnagar region, there are more than 1.5%, 2% organic carbon is there. Now it is 1%. In these regions, in the Dholi regions, in the Pusa regions, if you go 50 years back, there are approximately 1% carbon. Almost everywhere, approximately 1% carbon is there. Now it is 0.4% carbon is there. Okay, so there is continuous loss of carbon is there, and that is mainly due to the oxidation of carbon, or there will be the field are remain vacant during the summer, and they are exposed to the high temperatures and sunlights during that period. There will be oxidation of carbon takes place, and that carbon is oxidized and converted into carbon dioxide, and that will be comes into the atmosphere. That's why the CO2 content from 300 ppm to now it is 420 to 430 ppm carbon dioxide is there in the atmosphere. Okay, so this is the carbon cycle through which carbon is used for synthesis, and then after decompositions they break down and they again regenerate. Okay, so it is the synthesis, fixation, and regeneration process in the carbon cycle. Now we will see the generalized conceptual models of nitrogen cycle. Okay, so after carbon cycle, the most important one is the nitrogen cycle, because nitrogen is one of the important major nutrient, major essential nutrients which are taken up by the plants. It in the atmosphere there are huge biomass, a huge amount of nitrogen is there, but they are not in usable form. In the soil, there are conversion of nitrogen in different form of nitrogen. That is the protein converted into amines converted into the ammonia and nitrate. And during all these process, microbes are involved. And there are several transformations that takes place during this process. So here also plant biomass is in the center of the nitrogen cycle, and these plants contain proteins mainly. We are doing agriculture, or agriculture practice are the synthesis of proteins mainly. We are producing crops for the proteins. We are taking foods for the proteins. Okay, so nitrogen are used into the vast amount. Okay, so plant biomass which are mainly developed into the plants, that results from the either they take nitrate or either they take ammonia from the soil, or when you apply fertilizer, they will be taken up by the plants. Plant growth will be takes place. There will be accumulation of nitrogen to different amines, amino acids, peptides, and then they are converted into the into proteins. Okay, there is also in the soil nitrate is converted into ammonia. Okay, and even during the decomposition process of the organic residue, microbes are involved in the conversion of ammonia to nitrates. Also there is some microbes are involved. So when it is identified that the nitrogen transformation in the soil are mainly depend upon the microbial activity, then only the conceptual model of the nitrogen cycle was generated. Okay, so ammonia, there is nitrification also, there is ammonification process also, and these ammonia are mainly taken up by there is a anthropogenic fixed nitrogen also from the industry. Anthropogenically industrial fixation of nitrogen also takes place into the fertilizer for the benefit of the crops. Atmospheric nitrogen also contribute nitrogen through the lightning process. They are converted into the ammonia, but they are in very small quantity, 2 to 3 kg, 2.5 kg per hectare only per annum. 2.5 kg per hectare per annum nitrogen is only fixed through the atmospheric lighting. Okay, there is also biological nitrogen fixation process. Okay, so through the biological nitrogen fixation process, several microbes are mainly involved. Microbes, the most important one is the rhizobium, then Azotobacter, then Azoospermum, then blue-green algae, some of Azolla. Okay, so all these microorganisms are very much important in the fixation of nitrogens. They convert atmospheric nitrogen into the usable form, into the ammonical form, and they directly supply nutrient to the plant system into the available form. And that is this process, it takes place in all type of agriculture field, all type of even in oceans, even in the forest, even in the aquatic bodies also. And naturally the nitrogen fixation takes place. If you see the atmospheric nitrogen fixation in the globally, it is about 180 million tons per year, and industrial nitrogen fixation is about 90 million tons per hectare, 80 to 90 million tons per year. Okay, so this nitrate, when they may becomes through the leaching, and they may, if the concentration is high, they may pollute the groundwater also. So high contamination, high content of ground nitrate into the soil, they may prone to the leaching, and due to the anion, and they may contaminate the groundwater, which is dangerous for the health also, human health also. Nitrate denitrification also takes place. So through the denitrification, they are converted into the atmospheric nitrogen, atmospheric gas of nitrogen, and they escaped into the atmosphere also. So the usable form is converted into the non-usable form, and it is the step down reduction process through which the nitrate is converted into the atmospheric nitrogen, or into NO2. These nitrates are also taken up by the microbial biomass also. They are maybe attached to the exchange sites also. Okay, plant biomass after decompositions, they contribute to the soil humus or microbial biomass also. Even through the soil or humus, on the exchange side, huge amount of ammonia will be there. And they will contribute to the buffering capacity of the soil. Plant biomass also contribute to reclaimed biomass, that is compost and sludge. So after decomposition, after composting or vermicomposting, they may contribute to the ammonia also. These plant biomass in the carbon cycle, we have seen that they are taken up by the animals or humans for the biomass development, and they also contribute the ammonia also during the decomposition process. So that is the nitrogen cycle in which the plant system is also in the center, and nitrate and ammonia are two important forms through which the microbial interactions takes place, and the process of conversion is mainly due to the microbes. Even the atmospheric nitrogen is converted into the usable forms by the different form of microbes. So then uh, it is found that the nitrogen conversion into the soil system for the usable forms are depend upon the conversion of the microbes, that then these nitrogen cycles are mainly formulated or synthesized. Now, phosphate. In the same way, phosphorus is also phosphorus cycle is also there. So, soluble phosphate is mainly usable form, and some unusable form, that is rock phosphate, is there. In the soil, there will be interchange which takes place. Soluble may be converted into insoluble forms if the soil reactions and other factors not suitable, and they may be converted into the usable form if the soil is acidic in reactions. Okay, so these processes are mainly takes place in the soil, but there are certain microbes also which are able to solubilize the microorganisms, solubilize the insoluble phosphorus. Okay, like the Bacillus pseudomonas, Bacillus polymyxa, Pseudomonas striata, and several fungi are also there, Aspergillus niger, and a penicillium. So all these fungi and microbes, when they are applied as a seed treatment into the soil, they colonize into the rhizosphere, and during the colonization process, they synthesize or separate organic acid into the surrounding, and during the process of acidification, the phosphate, insoluble phosphate, which come into contact with these acidification, they will becomes available. And due to the large population of the microbes, these phosphate solubilizing microbes into the rhizosphere, they are able to make available the insoluble form of phosphorus to the plant system. So there is great importance of soil microbes also for the conversion of inorganic forms into the insoluble form to soluble forms. Okay, so these phosphorus are taken up by the plants. Plant growth will be takes place for the growth and developments, and then life cycle will be completed. And these are mainly the major nutrients. They are taken up by the plants in the large amount. Okay, so the inorganic phosphorus taken up by the plants, they are converted into the organic phosphorus. They are taken up by the human beings and animals, and they contribute also there. So this type of cycle will be takes place into the ecosystem in which phosphorus recyclings takes place. Okay. So this is one is the conceptual model of the soil phosphorus cycle with soil mineral reservoirs as the central components. Okay, phosphorus is one of the minerals which are present in the soil, and that is taken up one of the essential minerals, major essential nutrient which are taken up by the plants. Their conversion into the soil is also microbial dependent, and there is several forms of phosphorus which are present into the soil, and only some of them are taken up by the plants. So anthropogenic inputs are also there in the form of biomass, in the form of fertilizers. They are added to the soils, and these minerals are used for the formation, for the production of the phosphatic fertilizers. They are directly taken up by the plants also, and after decomposition, after harvest, they are used by the animals and humans also. They contribute to the soil minerals also. Okay, so this type of cycle is exist. In the same way, potassium cycle, sulfate cycle, sulfur cycle is also there. Okay, so there are mainly four cycles: carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, phosphorus cycle, and sulfur cycle. So soil minerals and soluble sulfur will be present there. So in this model, we are showing the sulfur cycle, showing the generalized interaction of biological resources with soil and atmospheric resources. Okay, so the sulfate it is anionic in the anionic form, and they are taken up by the plants. They are very much essential, and these plants after growth they will be used as a feed material for the animal biomass developments, and after decomposition or after completion of life cycle, they contribute to the humus microbial biomass into the soil, and ultimately plant biomass may be converted, composted, or in the through other decomposition process they will contribute to the humus and microbial biomass. Okay, so this one is the uh, even from animal biomass there may be atmospheric sulfur contribution also. So we have seen that different cycles are there, and if you integrate these three cycles, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur cycles, then we can say that there are interconnectedness of the biogeochemical cycles. Okay, so plant biomass is as a result of the assimilation of carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus will be there. That are the major nutrients that comes from the soil systems and from the atmosphere. Okay, so plant assimilation assimilate these nutrients and they convert them into the organic materials. है ना? So this one is the mainly the organic matter factory, and through this process, through the assimilations of these materials through the different process I have shown you, they are they develop a large biomass above the grounds and below the grounds also. Below the grounds as roots, and above the grounds that is shoots. Okay, so uh, we have seen that in the carbon cycle, we have seen that photosynthesis takes place. Carbons are mainly fixed into different carbon 6 molecules, sugar molecules, in the presence of sunlight and in the presence of chlorophyll, and they assimilate nitrate also, ammonia also, and they incorporate into the plants with the different amino acids. They form different amino acids and proteins also. They are taken up by the plants. Even phosphorus is also taken up by the plants. Phytin is the major component in the seeds. They are also there are different function of these nutrients also. Okay, so macro and micronutrients are also taken up. Secondary nutrient like calcium, magnesium, sulfur are also taken up by the plants. Iron, molybdenum, chlorine, boron, manganese, copper, zinc. So all the micronutrients are taken up from the soil in a very small quantity. Okay, so sulfate is also taken up by the plants. So in that way, the life cycle of the plants or the plants will be grown and a mature plants will be there, and so the whole interactions will be takes place through these processes. Okay. So there are interconnectedness of all these cycles: carbon cycles, nitrogen cycles, sulfur cycle, phosphorus cycle, and then the biogeochemical cycles are completed. Okay, so there are several processes that are involved in the in these cycles are essential for the plant life cycle. Now, after the growth of the plants, there will be death of the plants will be takes place. Okay, so after death of the plants again, the process of decomposition will be takes place. In the earlier process, we have seen the synthesis of the organic materials are there. Now, after completion of life cycle, there will be decomposition process will be taken. So disassembly of plant organic matter into various primary organic nutrient pools will be takes place after decompositions, and after death of the plants, they will be incorporated into the soil, and there will be plant debris or forms. They will be decomposed due to the action of atmospheric conditions or climatic conditions. Moisture will be required, temperature will be required, microbial actions will be required, and they were slowly decomposed, and they are able to release the nutrients into the soil. They able to free the nutrients into the soil. The nutrients which are in complex materials, complex compounds, into the organic materials, they are decomposed into the simpler compounds, and later on in the available form they are converted. And in all these processes, there is a great role of the microbes are there. So the microbes presence into the soil is essential to free the nutrients which are mainly blocked into the organic materials. Okay, that are locked into the organic material, that are freed by the microorganisms into the soil. Okay, so plant debris during the decomposition, CO2 are evolved, and so regeneration of carbon dioxide will be takes place. So microbial biomass, humus, is also formed, and they are able to release the sulfate also, and sulfate are regenerated also, that will be used by the other plants also. Okay, they may be converted into that elemental sulfur also. They also release carbon dioxides, so there are interconnectedness also. So through these cycles, micro and micro elements are also released, and that comes into the soil system. Okay, now the phosphates are also released into the soil. They converted into insoluble forms also. Ammonia and nitrate are also released during the decompositions. Proteins are converted into amino acids and then amines, and ammonia and later on nitrates. In all these processes, microbes are involved. CO2 evolved into the atmosphere. Even nitrate and ammonia maybe comes into the atmosphere and depend upon the climatic conditions. Okay. So now that is the
एक्सक्यूज मी सर.
yes.
सर रिक्वेस्ट आया होगा तो मतलब वो लोग का नेटवर्क इशू था, ज्वाइन नहीं है.
हाँ ठीक है सर, तो मैं कंटिन्यू रखता हूँ सर. ठीक है, ओके सर, थैंक यू सर. So we have discussed, and in the first semester also we have discussed about the carbon cycle. So carbon cycle revolves around evolution of CO2, its fixation and regeneration. So we all discussed in the last few slides. Carbon cycles are also there. So carbon cycle is revolved around evolution of CO2, its fixation and regeneration mainly. Okay. Now I am showing you the global carbon cycle, in which decomposition of organic matter is the main components. Okay, so in the carbon cycle, we will discuss about the decomposition of organic matter as the main components. about 5,000 petagram carbon in the on the global basis is there, that is used as a fossil fuel. Okay, so during the process of use, they maybe contribute about 750 petagram carbon into the atmosphere. Okay, the soil also contains carbon, about 2,400 petagram carbon is there. They also contribute to the different process of oxidation of carbons from the soil or respiration process. The, they contribute to the atmospheric carbon also. Okay, so they also contribute about 62 petagrams carbons into the atmosphere. Fossil fuel contribute about 5.5 petagrams of carbon. Oceans and lakes have also a huge amount of carbon in there, about 36,000 petagram carbon in there. Okay, so there is a huge content of carbon into the oceans and lakes. If you see, the content is about 36,000 petagram carbon into the ocean and lake. So it is a large reservoir of the carbon. Okay, so they also contribute about 102 petagram carbon into the atmosphere through the development of carbon dioxide into the oceans. Through bubbling, they are coming into the atmosphere, and they contribute a huge amount of carbon into the atmosphere. Okay, in the same way, vegetation on the surface, that is about 550 petagram carbon is there, and they contribute about 50 petagrams of carbon into the atmosphere, and they take through the, because the uh, synthesis of carbon molecules, synthesis of organic materials will takes place with carbon. So they take about they consume about 110 petagram of carbon from the atmosphere. Vegetations are decompositions. I have told you about one-third portions remain into the soil, one-third portions will be contributed, go into the soil through the different stages, and they will contribute to the soil organic carbon, soil carbon content, and soil carbon also through the different process of washing, different process, rainfall, irrigation, precipitations, and their runoff. They will be again into the oceans and lake, and they will contribute to the oceans and lakes. Okay, from the atmosphere through the precipitations also, they contribute about 105 petagram carbon into the oceans and lakes also. Okay, so this is the great cycles of carbon in which they are mainly contributed. Recycling of carbon will take place. Even carbonaceous rocks are also there. Okay, so about 75 million petagram carbon is into the rock biomass is there. Okay, so this global carbon cycles, which are mainly there is the decomposition is the main component of the organic materials, and we have shown you the different components of these, where the largest reservoir is oceans and lakes, and through the different process, there are different process through which they are there will be change of the carbon from one reservoir to another portions to the, and they will be contribute to the different portion. And in this you see that there is a balance of minus 4.5 petagram carbon. Okay, so here is also negative balance is there, so they are contributing to the atmosphere. Carbon assimilations. Now, if you see the organic matter that is provides energy for the growth, okay, and the supply carbon for the synthesis of new cell materials. I have told you all these things. Now, the complex organic breaks systematically into simpler or primary units like glucose, pentose, amino acids, and other molecules in the presence of certain enzyme into the soil, and through the decomposition process, there will be simplification will be take place, decomposition will be take place. They are further implied directly for the synthesis of newer cells materials for oxidized to produce energy to derive metabolic reactions. Okay, so through the carbon assimilation process, plants are able to synthesize organic materials, and after completion of life cycle, they are again converted into the simpler molecules, and they are further utilized directly for the synthesis of newer cells materials or oxidized to produce energy to derive metabolic reactions. Okay, so the process of converting substrate carbon into protoplasmic carbon is known as assimilations. Okay, so what is assimilation? That is the process of converting substrate carbon into protoplasmic carbon is known as assimilation. So if you see, under aerobic conditions, about 20 to 40% of the carbon substrate is assimilated, and the rest is released as carbon dioxide or accumulated as waste product. Okay, so under aerobic conditions, in the presence of air, 20 to 40% of carbon substrate is assimilated, and another 60% or 80% is released as a CO2 or accumulated as a waste product. Through the respiration process, they are released. If you see the fungi, that is generally release less carbon dioxide. If they are releasing less carbon dioxide, so they are consuming more carbon dioxide, and so more biomass are developed. So for each unit of carbon transformed aerobically than the other microbial groups. So fungi generally release less CO2 for each unit of carbon transformed aerobically than other microbial groups, because fungi are more efficient in their metabolisms, and that's why they are developing more biomass as compared to the bacteria and actinomycetes and other microorganisms. Okay, so it is generally calculated that 30 to 40% of for fungi, that is they assimilate, and 5 to 10% for aerobic bacteria, and 2 to 5% for anaerobic bacteria. So assimilation of carbon by the fungi is about 30 to 40%, and 5 to 10% for aerobic bacteria, and 2 to 5% for the anaerobic bacteria. So the assimilation of carbon is accompanied by the uptake of other elements for formation of new cell and cell wall materials, or the formation of the different uh, compounds which are required for the synthesis of new cells or new cell materials for the conversion them into the tissues and organs. Okay, so carbon assimilation is mainly correlated with the assimilation of other nutrients. When carbon is assimilated, they are accompanied by the uptake of other elements from the soil. That is, the nutrients, mainly mineral nutrients, are mainly assimilated. That is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and other micronutrients for the mainly the biochemical reaction to the soil enzymatic activity of into the plant system. The conversion of available nutrients into organic substrate make them unavailable for the plants. That is, the process of integration of inorganic nutrients into organic form is known as immobilization. So we have I think all of you have idea about the immobilization process. So the conversion of available nutrient into organic substrate make them unavailable for the plants, and that process of integration of inorganic nutrient into organic form is also known as immobilization. Now, the magnitude of the microbial immobilization is proportional to the net quantity of microbial tissue formed. Okay, the magnitude of microbial immobilization is merely proportional to the net quantity of microbial tissue formed, and is related to the carbon assimilation by a factor that is governed by CN ratio, CP ratio, CK ratio, and CS ratio of the new microbial tissue. Okay, So the magnitude of microbial immobilization is proportional to the net quantity of microbial tissue formed. If quantity of microbial tissue formed is higher, the magnitude of microbial immobilization is higher. In case of bacteria, it is less. Aerobic bacteria, it is high as compared to the anaerobic bacteria. But in case of if you compare and fungi, then there is less biomass will be uh, synthesized in the actinomycetes as compared to the bacteria, and that is bacteria. In case of bacteria, it is less than the fungi. Okay, so the magnitude of microbial immobilizations will be always higher with the fungi, followed by aerobic microbes, aerobic bacteria, followed by the anaerobic bacteria, and the tissue formed is also in the same relations. Okay, so there also carbon assimilation is also governed by a factor, and that factor is the ratio of different nutrients with the carbon. Okay, so the CN ratio, CP ratio, CK ratio, and CS ratio of the new microbial tissues are also important. Okay, so the wider the ratio, higher will be the rate of immobilization takes place. Now the energy concept, if you see, so the huge energy consumptions are there, or there is release of energy also takes place. So organic matter contain considerable potential energy and readily transferable to other latent form, or is liberated as heat during the conversion process. Okay, so the plant tissue entering the soil system has a heat value also, and that is approximately to 5 kilocalorie per gram of air dry substance. So when you are adding organic matter into the soil, you are adding energy into the soil, you are adding heat into the soil, you are adding food material for the microbes, you are adding some more latent heat into the soil, and after as a dry substrate. Okay, for example, if you are adding 20 tons of farmyard manure into the soil, or you are applying 20 tons of farmyard manure into the soil, that contain about 5 ton of dry matter, because most of the portions are some of the water materials are there, and dry portion is only 5 tons of dry matter, and add 25 million, that will be add about 25 million kilocalorie of the latent energy. Okay, at the rate of 5 kilocalorie per gram of air dry soil, you are adding about 25 million kilocalorie of the latent energy. Okay, so when we are applying 20 tons of farmyard manures, it will be equivalent to 5 tons of dry matters, and it is equivalent to, on the basis of energy, it is about 5 million kilocalorie of latent energy we are incorporating into the soil. So when we are adding these biomass into the soil, we are actually adding energy into the soil, and when soil become energetic, it will be give it. They are uh, uh, able to supply more nutrient to the plant system, and good growth of the plants will be takes place, and there will be a bumper crops will be harvested. So a small portion of this enormous energy is used by the biological system also, because we are adding all these new materials into the soil. The very small portion of these added materials are mainly utilized by the biological system, and the other portions are lost, because soil is a very good biological system, very good substrate for the organic material, organic biological things. Okay, very good lab for the biochemical laboratory. Okay, and several biochemical reactions are taking place into the soil. So if you see the annual loss, that is the loss from a productive soil is about 37 million kilocalorie per hectare is there, approximately it is. And if you see the oxidation of organic matter through the release of energy also takes place. If oxidation of organic matter is there, there will be loss of energy will be there. Heterotrophs are more energy yielder, Then the autotrophs, heterotrophs will be release more energy as they consume more organic matter from the soil. So more organic matter consumptions is there for the heterotrophs, and so they use energy. If they use energy, they will able to release energy also. Okay, so heterotrophs are more energy leader than the autotrophs, which are autotrophs are not dependent upon the organic matter. Their foods materials are not directly utilized from the organic matters. They take out the chemical substances of inorganic materials. These are the example in which the glucose, which are oxidized, converted into carbon dioxides, and they through the heterotrophic microorganisms, they release about 646 kilocalorie. And in case of the inorganic materials, when that is utilized by the autotrophs, that is ammonium chloride, they release 166 kilocalorie. So heterotrophs release 10 times more, approximately 10 times more energy as compared to the heterotrophs. Now, I have told you that in the soil system, several biochemical reactions are takes place, and all these reactions takes place as normal temperatures and normal pressures, normal atmospheric conditions. Okay, and all these reactions are taken place at acceptable rates by the soil ecosystems and for the uh, plant rhizosphere also. Okay, so for conducting all these biochemical reactions, several enzymes are mainly present into the soil, and in the presence of these enzymes, these biochemical reactions takes place. And due to enzymes, these biochemical reactions takes place into the soil in the normal temperature and pressure and atmospheric conditions, and that is at acceptable rates. Okay, so in biological system, the metabolic reactions are purely enzymatic. Okay, there is no pure chemical reactions takes place. All biological systems have metabolic reactions and are purely enzymatic, and in each reactions certain enzymes involved, and through the purging, due to the purgence of that enzymes, that reactions takes place into the soil system. So a specific enzyme is released either within the microbial cells, that is intracellular or constitutive enzymes, or outside the microbial cell, that is the extracellular enzyme. If you have idea about the enzymes, then in the soil enzymes, these type of things we have to study. That is that may be intracellular or constitutive when the enzymes remain into the body of the microbes, or then it is called intracellular or constitutive enzymes, or when they are released by the microbes in the outside, then it is called the extracellular enzymes. Okay, so both type of enzymes are secreted when they are required by the ecosystem, or when the microbes feels that these type of chemical reactions or this type of material is not metabolized within the body, then they release enzymes, and after conversion into different parts, they are taken up by the microbes, and then the their conversion will be associated with the constitutive enzymes or intracellular enzymes. So the enzymes produced outside the cell to hydrolyze larger fractions into a smaller units is extracellular enzymes. Okay, or it is synthesized when the uh, microbes are not able to metabolize them, then only these enzymes are secreted, and after uh, considerable reduction into the size or conversion into different forms, they are utilized by the microbes. So the enzyme produced outside the cell to hydrolyze larger fractions into a smaller unit is extracellular enzymes. Another one is that after its entry within the cell, they are either oxidized further or to produce energy, or used for resynthesis of protoplasmic complex. Another one is the enzymes that catalyze such reactions within the cells are known as intracellular enzymes or constitutive enzymes. Okay. They are also called some induced enzymes, are also they are induced due to the surrounding conditions, surrounding environments. They are able to some inductions will takes place and they are induced to secrete certain enzymes. So some enzymes are not always produced outside the cell wall, but synthesized only after the recognition of the type of substrate materials or type of organics to be acted upon such enzymes. Okay, so that is the induced enzymes. कुछ enzymes हैं, कुछ reactions हैं. Some common enzymes and reactions. Urease है. Urease जो कि है, that is the one of the enzymes that are used for the hydrolysis of urea. Because large amount of urea applied into the fields, they are converted into they are hydrolyzed in the presence of urease enzyme, and these urease enzymes are synthesized by the urobacters, and nickels are mainly the components, metallic components of urease enzymes. So breakdown of urea in water and soil to carbon dioxide and ammonia takes place in the presence of enzyme urease. Another one is the protease, is another enzyme, that is exopeptidase is also, endopeptidase is also, that is proteinase. Then hydrolysis linkage between the two amino acids. So when there is a breakdown of protein materials and it takes place in the presence of these enzymes, then lignase and lignase, they are able, in the presence of these enzymes, they are able to degrade lignins also. Lignins are very hard materials. Their decomposition is very difficult. So only a specific type of microbes are mainly able to decompose. Mushrooms are mainly best decomposer for the lignins also. Hemicellulose, that is breaks hemicellulose also. So enzymes are mainly given on the basis of substrate which are metabolized, and on that basis only the names are given. So it is very easy to remember the names of enzymes and on which type of substrate they are working. Then phosphatase, they hydrolyze the phosphorus which are attached with the humus. Okay, so they break the bonds between these phosphorus and humus also. Okay, so hydrolyze humus phosphorus linkages into humus into phosphate. Then sulfatase, that is hydrolyze humus humus associated sulfur bond into the humus and sulfuric acid. Lipase is also that breaks fats into glycerols and fatty acids. Okay, so these are the several enzymes. Okay, so the enzymes that catalyzing decomposition reactions are mostly extracellular and hydrolytic in nature. Most of them are extracellular and they are hydrolytic in nature. A glycosidase and beta glucosidase are indicator of carbon cycle. These two enzymes, their presence into the soil are a good indicator of the carbon cycle also. Okay? So that's all about today. In the next class, we will discuss about the nitrogen cycle. Okay. Any query? या नाइट्रोजन साइकिल भी कंप्लीट कर दे. Is it audible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
आज इतना ही रहने देते हैं, अगले क्लास में फिर देखेंगे.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, could you again explain why heterotrophs release more energy than autotrophs?
हेटेरोट्रॉफ्स का क्या डेफिनेशन है पता है? What is the definition of heterotrophs? What are heterotrophs?
So they cannot produce energy on their own.
Okay. What are the food requirements? What are the materials required for their growth and development?
Sir, inorganic compounds?
हेटेरोट्रॉफ्स के लिए हेटरोट्रॉफ्स के लिए ऑर्गेनिक मटेरियल चाहिए, है ना. So they are using organic materials, and that's why, because organic materials have energy, more energy as compared to the others. Okay, so when they are converted into different energy forms, there will be also release of energy. Okay, in the case of heterotrophs, because they are depend upon the inorganic materials, so in very small amount they are utilized, and so very small energy is used because they are in pure form. There is no another mid product or byproducts are there during the assimilations and release. But in case of organic materials, in case of heterotrophs, they are metabolized, they are converted into different forms. There are several byproducts, and then only they are assimilated. That's why the release of energy were more in the heterotrophs as compared to the autotrophs. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. We will see you again.